In 1993, I made $1 million. I had $1 million in the bank. I didn't have any debt because I didn't know how to get debt. And we were opening between 15 and 30 restaurants a month for about 7-8 years.
You've made a lot of these managers and owners millionaires.
Hundreds of them. 14 of 17 department heads at Jimmy John's that became millionaires all came from the sandwich shop. I hate damn minimum wage. It just f***ed it all up.
What's your sense of AI and robots and where things are heading?
It's going to evolve and it's going to...
Final advice for entrepreneurs who are listening in.
If you do that and you have a little bit of luck, I think you're going to kick their ass.
CEO and co-founder. John Liautaud, the founding partner of Palantir co-founder John Liautaud.
My friend John Liautaud is the founder of Jimmy John's, one of the most successful restaurant businesses in America. He's a kind and gracious guy. He's an entrepreneur who's really passionate about his business. He's passionate about this country. He started off at the age of 19. He scaled slowly at first, making sure he really aced every restaurant, and he started scaling more quickly and built one of the most impressive restaurant businesses in our country. His business was almost destroyed by the government as he was attacked over several years over really crazy things. So you'll see why this guy, who originally didn't really think about freedom, think about things like politics, really passionate about politics today, but is also still bullish and passionate on America. I'm Joe Lonsdale. Welcome to American Optimist. I have my friend Jimmy John. John Liautaud is his actual name, but he's known as Jimmy John because of his amazing business. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure, Joe. Thanks for having me.
January 13th, 1983. That was when you first opened your first Jimmy John's. You were 19 years old. Tell us about the store and the menu.
Yeah, I was 19 years old. It was a two-door garage that had been converted into a pizza joint that had failed, and I rented it, and it was at Eastern Illinois University, and I had a couple cousins and a brother that were two cousins there. Brother was going there, and I rented this garage, and I had 4 sandwiches on my menu, and I had 25-cent Cokes, and I opened the business with a $25,000 loan from my father, and he was my partner.
I love it. And you were baking the bread yourself, designing the sandwiches and the menu.
Yeah.
You know, how'd you figure this all out on your own as you got going?
Well, my father gave me a budget of $25,000, and I wanted to open a Chicago hot dog stand. And when I found out how much equipment it took to open a hot dog stand with fryers and steam tables and milkshake machines and ovens and hoods and all that, I didn't have enough money. So I really was just by default. It was a sandwich shop or go to the Army. It was one or the other, and I didn't want to go to the Army, and my father was going to let me live at home. So I just discovered sandwiches, and that's how it started.
It's actually fascinating. So it's the scarcity of only having a certain amount of money forced you into a more efficient thing to do. And, you know, to what do you attribute your success? You obviously have a larger than life personality. You're a really bold guy. Was that a key part of it even early on?
You know what? I don't know that was a key part of it early on because when I was a kid and I was that young, I was scared to death. Like I really didn't have any other option. Like my dad was serious and I don't know that my personality was quite developed really at that time. I mean, I was a kid. But what certainly helped me was my ability to all my employees quit to like a month after we opened. All my employees quit.
Wow.
And I had the energy and the big energy where I was able to run the store from open to close from 8 in the morning to 2 in the morning.
Wow.
So that's something I never knew that I could do, but I did it. And so I guess my energy helped me there. So I think it helped. Probably it helped me. Yeah, I guess it helped me. But
first few hires and they didn't work out at all. They left, and I hear you made one of them take a lie detector test. Is that true?
Yeah, I did. You know what? I had a written test that you would fill out, and I would grade the test, and if they scored a certain way, it said the chances of this person stealing from you, is pretty good or not. And it was like a Myers-Briggs, but it was for thievery. Yeah. And but I mean, it wasn't like lie detector tests.
Oh,
I wasn't
funny.
like hooking people up to machines and shit.
You're testing out, making sure it's going to work. That's funny. I would push back on the personality being big at that time. One of the ads, we looked it up, was all restaurants in Charleston close after people eat at Jimmy John's. So that must have been a little bit of your personality coming out then.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah.
There are thousands of Jimmy John locations. You've sold part of the business now. What's the situation now?
So situation now is I sold 2/3 of the business in 2016. And in 2019, I rolled my retaining 33%, whatever it was, into Inspire Brands, which is Jimmy John's, Dunkin' Donuts, Buffalo Wild Wings, Sonic, and Arby's. It's a giant company.
How many Jimmy John's are there now?
I think there's about 2,900.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing. It really is. And Jimmy John's is actually doing very well right now.
Fast food, it seems like an incredibly competitive area. Like, what advice would you give someone entering this space, and how'd you get it to work at scale?
Joe, well, first of all, we went through a journey because the model, as we grew the business, from 83 to 93, I opened 10 stores and I moved to 10 different cities. From 93 to 03, I opened 200 franchise stores and 25 company stores. And then from 03 to 13, we built 2,000.
So you really started with just 10 over 10 years, really getting those early ones right then.
Yeah, and I moved to 10 different cities in 10 years. I opened every one myself.
Wow.
And then so at 2006, 2007, 2010, it really hit an inflection point. It started really cranking, and we were opening between 15 and 30 restaurants a month for about 7-8 years. We were really, really cooking. And the model was great. It was $350,000 to open a store. The stores did about $900,000 in sales, and the average store made about $200,000 of profit. And we paid the managers a base pay of like 36 to 42 grand base pay salary, depending on where they were, and we gave them 25% of the profit of the store. So the managers made a lot of money, and they made 80 to 120,000 bucks a year, and it was really symbiotic, copacetic. It worked for the managers. It worked for us. I mean, and we hired the people right below government wage and right above welfare. So we were in that sweet spot, and we were taking these people and we were teaching them how to run a business, how to operate with discipline. We had systems and procedures. We showed them the P&L. We taught them the P&L. We met with them once a month, sat down with them, reviewed their P&L, and we gave them their bonus check. And we had 3,000 stores open and another 3,400 sold when I sold the business, or 2,900 stores open and another 3,400 sold. And what happened, because you asked me, Jimmy, should people go into this business or should they get involved in this business? There was a gradual change in the government oversight and the government rules.
The policy started to mess it up, basically.
Policy started to mess it up, and it first started with insurance. You got to have insurance, and if you don't have insurance, you got to pay this minimum to the government. And then then they changed the definition of a manager. They said you got to pay a manager $52,000 a year.
So these people before were making less than that, but then they're making $100,000 in total because they have all the incentives, which of course you want incentive alignment. That's how your business works.
Yeah.
But they were forcing you to pay them more and not have as much incentives.
That's right. They wanted to reverse that, give them a guaranteed 52, and the bonus, the government. Well, they started.
Why is that even their business? That's crazy. Why are they? I mean, you're paying. Most people are doing well. Like, why is government stepping in there?
The government stepping in there because, you know what, I wonder why the government didn't come and ask me. If Barack Obama was so excited about making it better for these people, why wouldn't he come to me and ask me, say, show me your business, show me the model, show me how it works, let me meet some of your people, and let me talk to some of your people. I mean, it makes so much sense.
So this was the Department of Labor coming in and changing the rules on you?
Well, if it was Obama's policy is where it started. And then when it started, and they made the new labor law, we weren't concerned about it because our average manager was at $72,000.
Yeah.
So then what happened was they started suing individual franchise owners. My average franchise owner had 3.2 stores. So all around the country, they started suing our franchisees.
The government did.
The government did.
Wow.
For taking advantage of managers, and then that escalated, and so our franchisees who spent all their extra energy and time marketing the business, going to the local baseball games, pitching, marketing, selling, creating catering, building the catering business, taking care of their people. All of a sudden they're litigating. And then the policy evolved more, and Obama said, now I'm a co-employer. And I became a co-employer. And once my whole chain was, all of our energy was spent on growing a business, building the business, and helping serve the franchisees that are serving the sandwiches. And it changed to we were in litigation. So all the momentum went from building and helping and winning to litigating. And it was the entire chain, all the mom and pops, and then us as well. And we spent, it was a total disruption.
This is 2014, 2015.
Yeah, this is like started in 2012, 2013, 14, 15. It was, and finally, and then every time we go to court, the Department of Labor courts were the judges were all appointed by Obama.
They work for Obama because it's called adjudicative judges at the regulator. So it's not really an independent court. It's an Obama judge.
It's an Obama judge, and every time we went, they ruled against the law in favor of them.
And so you had to appeal above, but then even the first appeal is still to the Obama judge. Did you eventually get it out of the Obama judges to the real courts?
As soon as we got to the real courts, we won it on a summary judgment, but that stopped momentum for like 7 years.
It crushed your business, though.
Crushed the business and the momentum. And one thing, you can't buy culture and you can't buy momentum. It's not for sale.
Were you already politically active when this happened? Were they punishing you for something, maybe?
You know what? I don't know. I'm a bit of a Pollyanna, Joe. I just am.
Yeah.
And my mother was a Lithuanian immigrant, right? And my dad was first Liautaud that got an education, and he fought the Korean War on the GI Bill. They met at University of Illinois. I love America, and I wanted people to have the same opportunity as me. My business partner knew the Romney family, and I loved Mitt Romney, so I supported Mitt Romney.
Yes, you did.
Just because I love America.
Of course.
Knowing nothing about politics at all.
But once they saw you supporting Mitt Romney, it might have encouraged them to go after you hard.
Well, the IRS audit started to happen at that time.
Yeah, so great. They really were. I mean, famously, they were auditing huge numbers of conservative groups and conservative people. And I remember, I think she went to the White House a record number of times to see Obama. Right, the lady running the IRS back then. So it sounds like it was. It sounds like it was targeted. Were they going after other store owners, other franchisees as well? Was your model something that was unique to Jimmy John's, or were other people in trouble for it too?
No, they went after. They did the McDonald's, Domino's, Jimmy John's, and
it's so crazy because you had a model where you're giving more upside, and they wanted you to. They're basically forcing you to give less upside. I've seen the government do this a lot, where the SEC doesn't let people participate in certain types of upside because they're not qualified investors, and so you're not allowed to give them exposure to things that would make them a lot more money. And so they're doing the same thing to you. It's almost like they want to keep people poor or something. It's really weird.
You know what? It is really weird, and it's. I just don't think they understand it. Nor do I. I don't think that they even understand where the money comes from or how it's made.
You think they're just that dumb? They don't understand how business works with basic incentives and ownership in a business and 25% upside.
You know what, Joe? I don't know that they're that dumb. I just don't know that they've ever been forced to really figure out how you raise a herd of cattle. You know, I don't think that they know that cattle get sick on weekends and on Christmas. You know, I think they just, you're a little bit more, deliberate about that. But I just think that if you can get away with not having to know the details of your business and you make money in spite of yourself, why do you need to get into the details? And all of the money is made in the details, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm a little bit of a Pollyanna. I don't really want to hit him over the head as hard as you do.
Yeah, no, that's fair. You did hire a company though, Jimmy. I understand, to go back and do forensics on where all the money that came from that was used to attack you. What'd you learn?
I learned that every attack and every single one came from Democratic supported parties, different groups, but it was 100% liberal and Democrat people, Soros type stuff.
So does that make you want to fight a little bit more when people do that to you?
You know what, for me, Joe, I was in business for 32 years and 30 years or something, and all this stuff started happening, and I fought it and fought it and fought it, and honestly, I sold my business because, Joe, I couldn't do. I just was done. I had enough. Yeah. I had enough money. I had everything I wanted, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I was really uncled.
No, of course. Well, they came after you a bunch, but you know what? In the end of the day, you made a lot of money and overcame them. So it sounds like you're in a good place.
I'm in a good place. Yeah.
And so I want to ask them. There's a lot of successful business leaders who don't want to get involved in politics at all. Is it time for them to step up and stop things like this? Like, what would you tell people in business?
I would tell people in business that something that I completely missed, Joe. I missed that freedom was a privilege. And I never thought, never was it was top of mind for me that it was part of my responsibility to protect freedom and to be involved in politics and get myself educated and to know what's going on and understand that every single election matters. It doesn't matter whether it's local judges or whatever it is, it all matters. And I would tell anybody that's young people. I came here with my son Fred today to fly to Austin to see you, and I was with Fred, and I was talking to him about Netanyahu, and my son Fred said to me, "Dad, who's Netanyahu?" My son Fred's a young man, and so I said, "Fred, just to make it easy on you, download the New York Post and Fox News and just read the top 5 articles every day so you can have a conversation." Yeah. But that's pretty elementary. But be aware that freedom is not a privilege, or it is a privilege, and we got to protect it. Get educated about it. Be as involved as you can be, and you have to, because if you don't, it will be stolen from you the same way that it's been done. I mean, history tells us what happens, right? So I would tell.
It's a rare thing for us to have it. We got to preserve it for sure.
We have to preserve it, and to just educate people about the facts and not the emotions. I don't. Other than that, I just don't know. I mean, I do it because I love the country and I love America, and I love Trump and I love what he stands for.
I want to ask you about Trump. One more political question before we go to a couple other topics.
Sure.
Is you spent a lot of time personally with President Trump.
Yes.
It sounds like he's a friend of yours. You guys chat a lot. Like what do you admire about him?
I admire his resilience. I admire his ability to not take this personally. I admire his ability to take a shot in the head and the next day be back out on the road fighting again. I admire him walking away from the crowd with a bloody ear saying fight, and it was real. It wasn't staged. It wasn't it wasn't it was real.
That's who he is.
I mean, we are polar opposites. He is a fighter. But at the same time, he's a family man. He's an amazing memory. He's kind. He's thoughtful. He picks up the phone and calls you.
You're kind of a thoughtful guy too, Jimmy.
Yeah, but he's a fighter. I'm not a fighter.
Got it.
And he's a natural fighter, and he loves America. He loves the country. Genuinely loves the country. And I just, his bedside manner, could he be polished a little bit? Yeah, but me, I mean, I'm the clumsiest dude I ever met. So, but that's all right. So his bedside manner is a little rough, but he is a beautiful human, and his family's great, and his wife is great, and I just love the guy. He asked me about my nephew all the time, and I just think he's a real human being. He's not the guy that the press makes him out to be.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. I want to ask, you also do a lot of other things philanthropically. Something you've given a huge amount of money to underserved youth through Zach Brown's program, Racial Algebra Association. What are some of your passions to support in the country otherwise?
Well, besides scholarships, and one of my biggest passions is conservation and wildlife. And so I probably give, besides scholarships that I give every year, a lot. I give a lot of money for direct scholarships. I like my money to get directly used immediately. I don't like to put it into funds, you know. But I'm really into wildlife conservation, and I'm into repopulating wild sheep actually around the USA and around the world.
Why does that matter?
Well, it matters because I'm involved with the Foundation for North American Wild Sheep, and 15 years ago we did a transplant of wild sheep in New Mexico from one area to another mountain range. 15 years later now, just this year, they put 30 sheep over there. There's 300 sheep on that mountain, and this year they sold a license to hunt this area for $600,000. That license, it's the first hunt in this area after the transplant 15 years ago. The $600,000 went back into and there's 300 sheep there, and then they had 3 resident draw hunters drew a tag and got to hunt the mountain. There's more animals on the mountains now than there ever have been in the history. There's more elk, there's more sheep, there's more deer because of hunters. Because of hunters.
So you kind of combine hunting with preserving the nature and bringing more animals. It's kind of a cool thing that all feeds back on itself.
Absolutely, and when you put value on the animal, and there's value on the animal, then people don't poach the animal; they protect the animal, and that's the opposite of what's going on in Africa. Right?
I love it. No, that's right. Well, I'm looking forward to more hunting together. I hope we can enjoy that. I want to ask a couple more business stories because I think you've done a lot of really fun stuff there over the years. One thing is just you've been inside thousands of stores, and so obviously you spent so much time in that. You must build up a strong intuition. When you walk inside like a restaurant, like a Jimmy John's or something else like it, what are the most common mistakes, and what are the things you sense right away that could tell if they're doing it right or not?
Immediately, just look at the front door. If the front door is clean, if the glass is clean, like from top to bottom down to the corners, and look at the little where the door closes on the floor, just look and see how clean that is, and just start right there. So if that front door is clean and that glass is crystal clear before lunch, that store probably, what you're going to experience behind that glass door is probably going to be just like that. If that front door is really dirty, it's probably the back of the restaurant.
Oh gosh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
but those little details really show right away what they're doing, huh?
Sure, absolutely, they do. I mean, sometimes you can have a dirty door in a well-run restaurant, but it tells you right away. It's all about the small stuff in a restaurant. If it's piled up and it's organized and everything's neat and labels are faced and people look right and tight and the uniforms are and everything's right and tight, it's probably going to be a pretty good restaurant.
So it actually matters if people are dressed properly with their uniforms correctly and clean and all that stuff. Huh?
Absolutely. Look at Chick-fil-A. Look at In-N-Out. Look at how great those models are. I mean, both of those models, by the way, the managers are very incented to. They're aligned with the owners. Chick-fil-A managers make upwards of $500,000 a year.
I mean, this is very intuitive to me because every company I've ever started or every company I've ever invested in, we hire lots of smart people who are owners in the business, and those people will wake up in the morning and go to sleep thinking about the business. I don't know how you could run one of these things without the manager owning a piece of it. It
doesn't work. It doesn't. I mean, it's the only way to really make it work. It really is.
And so, what else did you learn? So 10 years in 10 cities, and then all of a sudden you started going into this hyper growth mode and opening tons of them. Like, what clicked? Like, how come you're all of a sudden able to go really fast?
Interesting they asked that. So in the first 10 years, I moved to 10 cities, opened up 10 stores. I joined Young Presidents Organization, YPO. YPO said the entrepreneur has to hire professionals to run their company once they built the company. So in 1993, I made $1 million. I had $1 million in the bank. I didn't have any debt because I didn't know how to get debt. I didn't know how to make a business plan. I didn't know what it was. Right. Saved up my money and opened up another store. So I hired some professionals to run my franchise business. I ran the company store. So from 93 to 03, I took my 10 stores to 25 and took the franchise from 0 to 200. And this is a story. 03, I got 200 stores open and 70 are failing.
Wow.
And so, and my 25 stores, my sales were skyrocketing, and my franchise stores were. So James, who's the president of the company right now, his name is James North. He told me, he said, Jimmy, we got to stop selling franchises. And I was addicted to the franchise fee and the royalty. I wasn't sticking the key in the door.
Yeah.
He says, we got to go on the road. We're going to stop selling. We got to go turn around these 70 failing stores. If we don't go do this, we're not going to have anything to sell.
Yeah.
So I just had, my kids were 3 and 4, my natural children. I adopted my son Spencer, who was in first grade, and I had to go back. I've been on the road for 20 years, and now I'm going to go back out on the road again, after just getting married and having kids. And so we did it, and we went on the road, and we turned around 63 of those 70 stores by hand. And after we did that, my 25 stores were making me $4.5 million a year. We turned around those stores, and I said, I don't want to do this ever again. So I sold people one store at a time. And if they liked it, we liked them, and it worked, I'd give them more stores. And I said, you know what?
Don't let them scale all of a sudden something's not working.
Yeah, and also sell them to, but if my criteria prior to this journey was, if you had a check and a pulse, I took your money.
Yeah.
Okay. After I went on the road for 18 months and turned around 70 restaurants, it changed a lot. I really want to know who they were. I told them the truth about the business, how hard it was. It really is difficult. It's not fun.
You got to work on it.
It's nights, it's weekends, it's sacrifice. Yeah, you got to work on it.
Your 63, that's 90% of them. The 7 you couldn't turn around. What was the difference?
The 7 were just, the owners are just like, you got to feed these cattle? I thought you just buy the cows and they grow themselves.
Yeah, they weren't willing to work on it.
Yeah, they didn't want to work on it.
And what states were these in mostly? Where did you guys build out?
Really, that was really Midwest. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Indiana, Kentucky, Iowa. Really just the Midwestern area. We grew pretty much Midwest. We stayed away from the coast.
Amazing. And were there any other traits of like successful managers, successful franchise owners? Like what kind of people were you looking for at the end of the day after you really started to scale?
At the end of the day, I was really looking for people that really genuinely loved the product, or I thought they loved the product, and that also understood that process and procedure is really the way to go. And if you love the product and you follow the process and procedure, pilots that use checklists typically live longer than pilots that don't. Mm-hmm. And people that, once they put process and procedure on a pedestal and they love the product, it was a no-brainer. It printed money.
And speaking of loving the product, I don't know if this is appropriate to tell you. You can censor it if it's not. But my friends were on a plane with you, a private plane. You were being served Jimmy John's on the private plane, which I thought was amazing. So you clearly still love the product.
I clearly still love the product. It's a great product. The product is good, right?
That's funny because you could have anything in the world clearly at this point, and you're eating your own stuff on the plane. I think that's awesome.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. I want to ask about a couple other hot topics going on right now in policy world.
Yeah.
What's your take on the minimum wage debate? Like first of all, you've made a lot of these managers and owners millionaires. You've created huge numbers of millionaires.
Hundreds of them.
Hundreds of millionaires, which is an awesome thing. It's something I'm very proud of from Palantir as well. When you bring people together, you work hard and have all these people creating wealth. So you obviously proud of creating all this wealth.
Yeah.
But, and you obviously want people to live well. But like, is minimum wage a good thing to help people make more? Is it break things? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think minimum wage is a destroyer of the free market. I think that the free market should determine everything. The free market should determine what the wage should be. Let the market determine it. If the free market determines it's $28 an hour, let the free market determine it's $28 an hour. But when the government goes in and sets it, I'm strongly against the minimum wage. I'm strongly against any oversight, not any oversight. I'm sure things have to be oversighted, but when you come into a mom and pop business that's doing $500,000-600,000 a year, you know, they literally oversighted the businesses out of business, right?
Yeah.
The model's not what it is anymore.
Yeah. So the market will determine it, and people, if they start lower up, then they'll probably end up growing and making more over time. Is that what happens? People come at a certain level and they'll get paid more if they're doing really well?
Absolutely. I mean, 14 of 17 department heads at Jimmy John's that became millionaires when I sold through stock, they were all came from the sandwich shop, Joe.
Wow.
So that was when we sold the company. But yeah, and not only you start out as a sandwich, we never wanted people ever to come and be a full-time sandwich maker. Being a sandwich maker was the beginning of your journey.
That's how you
out of poverty, and you become a sandwich maker, you become an assistant manager, you become a manager, you become an area manager, and then you could grow into the business. But I hate damn minimum wage. It destroyed our model, and it just it all up.
Seems like it does destroy, like they say it's like taking the low rung of the ladder out so that people on the bottom can't work their way up because they can no longer even start off if they're not worth, you know, the higher salaries.
Oh, for sure. And look at all the little bodegas in New York City now, and you got those beautiful bodegas in every side street in New York City. It's now a blue box truck.
Yeah.
What's prettier to look at? A little bodega with all these different cultures, all these different products, and all this different action going on, or a blue box truck. And look, right? The blue box truck is taken over. I mean, I use Amazon all the time, but still.
No, it's got a little bit sad. Another question I got for you: what's your sense of AI and robots and where things are heading? So I'm obviously involved in a lot of the tech world. There's a lot of new possibilities for doing certain things with robots. You can use less people. Is this going to affect models like Jimmy John's?
Well, it's got to. I mean, restaurants are probably always going to be the last things to pick up on this technology, but they're doing it now. I mean, it's happening now. You know, I don't know how, but I'm sure it's going to eventually evolve, and it's going to take away labor, right? I think eventually it's going to work. I mean, what did Elon say? His robot's going to be $10,000 when he can make 1 million of them a year. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's an incredible.
You could probably open some more stores more cheaply if you had extra labor that way, huh?
How about that? How about that?
Yeah. Well, hopefully it'll be a lower cost for consumers as well. I guess that'd be what would come out, right?
For sure. Sure. And I mean, sandwiches don't cost $12.
Yeah.
I mean, sandwiches are $4 or $5. They're not $12. And eggs don't cost $8.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't cost that much. So anyway, I don't like.
No, I know. I get it.
Yeah.
So you were 19 years old again when you opened your first store, which is an amazing journey here.
Yeah.
Do you think a 19-year-old could do it today? Are the regulations too crazy? Is it possible for a 19-year-old to step in and figure out something like this?
Joe, first of all, look, you made it. I mean, you did what you did, and you're in early 40s. But yeah, a 19-year-old could make it, you know, on the hustle and figuring out a hustle and doing it. But Joe, it's going to be so much harder. Is he going to be able to take $20,000 and open a sandwich shop? There's no chance. No way. I mean, they're going to need a couple hundred, and you're going to need to do $1 million a year. I mean, you can't make it on $400,000 a year anymore.
Yeah.
And so the numbers, the barrier of entry is so much higher. It's the government has when the government is the biggest competitor of small business. Yep. Imagine that the government is 50% of the upside of every deal, none of the downside, and then you know, you can eat the chicken eggs, not the chicken legs. Don't kill the chicken. You know, like throw me a kibble once in a while instead of beating the shit out of me.
No, it's true. Well, it's up to guys like you and me to help back those new guys getting going. I know you're into that too.
For sure.
Jimmy, we started the American Optimist to push back on a lot of the cynicism and pessimism in our country right now. And your mother, your family fled Lithuania, right? When the Germans invaded, she came to America through Ellis Island.
Yes.
What does this country mean to you? Are you still bullish on America?
I am totally bullish on America. I am so excited about America. I'm so excited for Donald Trump to be elected into this country. I'm so excited to have Elon Musk. If we have the honor and the privilege of having that man be involved in facilitating the audits and making everything more just better run and more just
the Department of Government Efficiency, right?
Absolutely, Department of Government Efficiency. And I mean, if we and it's good for everybody. Everybody wins.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable for the people that are in positions that they think they're going to be in for life, and they bobbed and weaved and manipulated themselves into those positions.
Yeah.
It might be uncomfortable for them, but you know what? It's uncomfortable getting up at 4 a.m, sticking your key in the door in a sub shop too. So you know what? Welcome to the world of being uncomfortable. But I am so bullish on America, and I'm so excited for Donald Trump to get into office. And he's not going to, he wasn't a middle class kid in a neighborhood where people love their lawn.
That's quite a line. Final advice for entrepreneurs who are listening in. What would you tell some entrepreneurs in America?
Come in earlier, stay later, work harder, volunteer, take the toughest jobs for yourself. Nothing's above you. Get in there and clean the bathrooms, clean the stalls, do whatever it takes to make it happen. Lead by example. Your people will really do what you do, not what you say. And so lead it, live it, do it, and your people build your team and know your product, love your product, and understand your numbers. And if you do that, and you have a little bit of luck, I think you're going to kick their ass.
I love it. Jimmy, you're a great American. Thanks for joining.
Thanks very much.